1973, Sunrise Highway, Long Island. Traffic light turns green, and a Vega pulls up next to a Corvette. The guy in the Corvette glances over, sees what looks like an economy car with a 4-cylinder, and grins. Easy money. Light goes green. The Vega launches like it's been shot from a cannon, shreds its tires through first gear, second gear, third gear, and disappears into the distance while the Corvette driver is still trying to figure out what just happened. That wasn't a 4-cylinder. That was a 454 cubic inch big block, and it came from the most outrageous dealership tuner operation in muscle car history. This is the story of the Motion Performance Vega. The car so ridiculous, so absolutely over the top, that it caught the attention of the United States Department of Justice and helped shut down one of the greatest performance shops of all time. This is the story of King Kong. To understand the Motion Vega, you need to understand Joel Rosen. In 1967, Rosen partnered with Baldwin Chevrolet in Baldwin, New York. The deal was simple. Baldwin would sell new Chevrolets through their dealership. Those cars would be delivered to Rosen's Motion Performance shop, where they'd be transformed into street-legal drag cars. Then they'd go back to Baldwin Chevrolet for delivery to customers who wanted something factory warranties couldn't touch. Motion built Camaros, Corvettes, Chevelles, Novas, cars with L88 engines, Phase 3 packages, and performance guarantees written right on the invoice. Buy a Phase 3 Camaro, and Motion guaranteed it would run 1150 at 120 miles per hour, or you got your money back, and they backed it up. These weren't show cars. They were weapons built to dominate street races and drag strips, sold through a legitimate Chevrolet dealership with full documentation. By 1973, Motion had built somewhere between 300 and 500 cars total. Joel Rosen kept the exact numbers to himself, but the operation was thriving. Camaros, Corvettes, and Chevelles were the bread and butter. But then the Vega showed up, and Rosen saw an opportunity nobody else did. The Chevrolet Vega, introduced in 1971 as Chevy's answer to imports like the Volkswagen Beetle. $2,100 starting price, lightweight aluminum 4-cylinder, innovative production processes with robots and automatic welding. It was supposed to be the future of affordable transportation. Instead, it became infamous for oil consumption, overheating, vibration, and in the worst cases, engine fires. The Vega had problems. Serious problems. But Rosen didn't see problems. He saw a lightweight platform with rear-wheel drive and enough engine bay space to fit something serious. By early 1972, Motion was already offering 350 small block conversions. Base package with a 350 ran about $4,000. Step up to the Phase 3 package with an LT1 making 370 horsepower, and you were looking at $5,000. These weren't hack jobs. Motion engineered proper motor mounts, upgraded the suspension, installed bigger brakes, and made sure everything worked reliably. Customers loved them. But then the requests started coming in. People who'd bought 350 Vegas wanted more. They kept calling Rosen asking about big block conversions, 427s, 454s, the full rat motor treatment. Rosen resisted at first. A big block in a Vega seemed insane even by Motion standards. The engine bay was tight. The chassis wasn't designed for that kind of power. The weight distribution would be terrible. But the requests kept coming. Finally, in the fall of 1973, Rosen decided to build one. Not just any big block Vega, a 454 cubic inch monster that would make people question their sanity, and he'd let CarCraft magazine document the whole thing. The engineering challenges were massive. A 454 big block was wider than the engine bay. Standard side mount motor mounts wouldn't work. Motion had to fabricate a saddle-type front mount like the 1962 Corvettes used. The firewall needed surgery around the bell housing. Custom tube headers had to snake around the suspension because there was no room for conventional routing. The exhaust ended up as side pipes exiting right below the driver's head because there wasn't enough clearance underneath the car. The rear got a narrowed 12-bolt posy with 456 gears. Motion traction devices replaced the stock upper and lower control arms. Custom front springs with thicker wire diameter, Coney adjustable shocks all around, Gabriel hijacker air shocks in the rear to lift the body over N50 to 15 Goodyears that stuck out past the wheel arches. Everything had to be custom because nothing designed for a Vega was meant to handle this much power. The transmission was a Borg-Warner 4-speed with a 264 first gear. Rosen admitted later later that a turbo 400 automatic would have been better, but this was a prototype built quickly to meet the magazine's deadline. He used whatever parts were closest. The result was a 3,100-pound Vega with a solid cam 454 and enough low-end torque to snap drive shafts if you weren't careful. Carcraft sent Roe McGonigal to drive it in the fall of 1973. His description said everything. The car could be driven smoothly from a standstill in every gear except fourth. Full throttle shifts broke the tires loose all the way through high gear. The throttle response with that low first gear and 456 rear was, quote, devastating to the psyche. He called it a boulevard cruiser, stoplight bandit, and basic commuter car all in one. But he also said it wasn't an all-purpose car. It was a brute, a weapon designed for one thing, going absurdly fast in a straight line. The cooling system was already inadequate. Motion had installed a custom radiator core, but after just 30 minutes on Sunrise Highway, the Vega puked coolant. The massive engine generated heat that the little car's cooling system couldn't handle. The weight distribution was terrible, with an extra 400 pounds of all-iron big block hanging over the front wheels. Manual steering combined with that weight meant the understeer potential was monstrous. But none of that mattered to the people who wanted one. McGonigal estimated the car should be capable of at least high 11-second quarter miles with slicks and proper traction. Rosen said he was certain there were 3 King Kong Vegas out there, maybe a fourth. Price ranged from $4,000 to $7,000, depending on options, and he was ready to offer complete conversion kits for customers who wanted to build their own. Then the article came out. January 1974 issue of Carcraft. Title: King Kong is living on Long Island. The opening line said it all. What would you call a street Vega with a 454 cubic inch big block? You'd have to whisper, because if the Vega heard, it might get mad and snap your neck at the next traffic light. Someone at the Environmental Protection Agency read that article, and they weren't amused. This was 1974. The Clean Air Act had passed in 1970. The EPA was cracking down on emissions. The OPEC oil embargo was making fuel economy a national priority. And here was Motion Performance, building streetcars with massive V8 engines that completely bypassed factory emission controls. Every emission device Rosen removed or disabled would cost him $10,000 in fines. For a V8 Vega, that meant $50,000 per car in government penalties. The Department of Justice sent Rosen a cease and desist order. Stop building modified streetcars that flouted federal emissions standards. Stop selling them to the American public. Motion Performance had become too visible, too successful, and too outrageous for the new regulatory environment. The King Kong Vega wasn't just a car, it was a symbol of an era that was ending. In 1975, Rosen settled. $500 fine, agreed to the EPA terms. All future Motion Performance vehicles had to be invoiced as for export or for off-road use only. No more street-legal supercars sold through American dealerships with full warranties. The golden age of dealership tuners was over. Motion continued building cars, but they went to Puerto Rico, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, foreign markets where American emissions regulations didn't apply. Baldwin Chevrolet had already closed its doors in 1974. The OPEC crisis, changing regulations, and shifting market conditions killed the supercar business. Motion Performance limped along through the late 70s and 80s, building occasional IROC Camaros and Monte Carlos, doing specialty work on Mustangs and Grand Nationals, but it was never the same. The era of turnkey drag cars sold through Chevrolet dealerships with written performance guarantees was finished. Today, finding an original Baldwin-Motion car is like finding buried treasure. The last confirmed Baldwin-Motion Corvette that sold at auction went for $140,000 in 2014. That was a 1969 Phase 3 Corvette. Original Motion Vegas are even rarer. Only 3, maybe 4 King Kong 454 Vegas were ever built. Joel Rosen built roughly 300 to 500 cars total from 1967 to 1974 across all models. Camaros, Corvettes, Chevelle, Vegas, Novas, Impalas. Every single one came with an invoice, and Rosen keeps the exact production numbers to himself. The Motion Vega represents everything that made the muscle car era both spectacular and unsustainable. Take the cheapest economy car on the market, Stuff the biggest, most powerful engine you can fit. Ignore practicality, fuel economy, and common sense. Build something so outrageous that it becomes legendary. And then watch as federal regulators shut the whole operation down because it's too fast, too loud, and too dangerous for a country facing an energy crisis. But for a brief moment in 1973 and 74, you could walk into a Chevrolet dealership on Long Island and order a Vega with a 454 big block. You could get a written invoice from Motion Performance documenting exactly what they'd built, and you could drive it on public roads, pull up next to Corvettes and Hemi Cudas, and absolutely embarrass them off the line while they wondered what kind of four-cylinder made that sound. That's what made Motion Performance special. They didn't just talk about building the ultimate sleeper, they actually did it, and they got shut down by the federal government for their trouble. King Kong didn't just destroy muscle cars, it destroyed the entire dealership tuner business model that had thrived through the late 60s and early 70s. The Motion Vega proved that sometimes you can go too far, but it also proved that the best way to win a street race is to show up in something nobody expects. A $2,100 economy car with a 454 cubic inch heart and enough power to embarrass anything on the road. That's the ultimate sleeper. That's what happens when brilliant engineers ignore common sense and build something purely for the love of going fast. If you've ever heard stories about dealership muscle cars from the 60s and 70s, drop a comment and share what you know. These cars are legends now, but back then, they were just what happened when creative people found ways around factory limitations. Hit subscribe for more stories about the cars that pushed boundaries until the boundaries pushed back, and I'll see you in the next one.